Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Xingye, and I work at a UK IP firm, Abel Imray, as an European and UK chartered patent attorney. I also have knowledge in Chinese patent law. Today's topic is IP and green energy, and I will be focusing on green energy in China and the relevant provisions and framework in Chinese IP system facilitating the obtaining and enforcing of IP rights. So in addition to my experience as a patent attorney, I myself previously had worked in a technical consultant company specialized in designing gearboxes and was involved in their early calibration with one of the largest Chinese wind turbine manufacturers. It was back in the pre-2010 period, and it was when the wind energy industry, along with other renewable energy related sectors, really took off in China. China passed the renewable energy law back in 2004, and in 2020, renewable energy generated over 2,000 gigawatt hour electricity, contributed to almost 30% of electricity usage in China. Asia has also become the continent seeing the fastest growth in renewable energy in the last 10 years. When we look at the development of green energy, or new energy as it's now referred to in China, it is worth noting that the Chinese market may appear a bit unique in that the green energy sector has been incorporated into the strategic plan of the country, both for the short term and the long term. And therefore, there are a lot of incentives from top down, largely based on the roadmaps set out by the government. China has pledged to reach carbon peak by 2030 and carbon neutral by 2060. So 30 years from peak to neutral. The carbon neutral target is pretty much in line with other large economies worldwide. Both EU and the US have set the goal to be carbon neutral by 2050. But Europe had peaked before 1990, and US peaked around 2005. The National Energy Administration and the National Development and Reform Commission in China will be in charge in terms of the central planning and the policy making in promoting green energy in China. But each province and city would also have a lot of room for maneuver when setting out their own plans based on its natural economy and technological background. It is therefore very important whether you are interested in entering the Chinese market, investing in China, or competing with Chinese players to consider national and the regional policies. The rapid growth of green energy is also reflected in the number of IP created in this area. As reported by WIPO, PCT applications in green energy and renewable energy area increased by over 500% in the 10 years from 2002 and 2012. After that, the total number of applications filed has more or less maintained at a rather high level. Solar is the strongest sector in terms of innovation, followed by wind. The leading country for green energy PCT filing in the last decade is Japan, followed by the US and Germany. Now, if we look at IP data in specific technical fields in more detail, we can perhaps spot some trend or shift in the area generating the most innovation. This graph shows the percentage of different subject matter in global patent application filed in the 20 years from 1995 to 2015. This large turquoise area represents electrical and electronic basic industry. And unsurprisingly, it takes the largest chunk as it is the backbone of all green energy sectors. Equipment manufacturing for wind, solar, and the biomass remains the most innovative and technical areas. However, their individual and collective weight have been going downwards as a result of emerging new technologies in areas such as plant management and maintenance. In general, we are seeing a shift of focus of the technology along the life cycle of these projects. Whilst maybe 10, 20 years ago, innovation focused more on the generation of power, the usage of the green energy, the efficiency and the efficacy of generation, researchers now move to focus on other aspects of the sector. Typically, the electricity generation by green energy, like wind and solar, is not controllable, which may lead to huge waste when electricity generated cannot be effectively stored or allocated within the grid. In solving issues like that, more work are being done on batteries for storage and for smart control, cloud control of the grid. As shown in the last slides, a lot of work has also been done in the cost-efficient maintenance of existing equipment and plants, and the recycling both in manufacturing of new equipment and treatment of old equipment. This offers opportunities for organizations who may not traditionally be in the green energy sector to expand their services or to adapt their products to cater for the demand and the challenges now faced in the green energy field. When we look at global renewable energy capacity investment, wind took an early start, but solar has been catching up in the recent years. In China, however, wind is going stronger than solar in terms of investment on capacity building. There are many reasons behind that, but one of them is that provinces or areas rich in wind resource in China are typically in the middle and western part of the country. And the development of wind energy is an important part of the overall development and the poverty alleviation of those areas. Costs for manufacturing for both wind and solar have gone down sharply over the years. So while you may find the value of investment may not be necessarily going up post 2010, the scale of the investment in terms of number of projects is no doubt still expanding. It is expected that both the cost for both wind and solar would continue to drop over the next 10, 15 years, making them more competitive when compared to traditional coal or gas energy. The projected expenditures for the next 10 years is still huge on renewable energy, and we'll see more investment on areas such as and the smart grid. These relatively new sectors will also bring the new players in other technical areas, for example, Internet of Things, cloud calculation, smart tech, battery tech, etc., into the new energy sector. A quick overview of the biggest players in China in terms of IP holders. As mentioned before, the approach in China is rather top-down, and it's reflected in the chart here, as many of the top 10 players are state-owned enterprises or state-controlled enterprises or academic institutes. In fact, all top 10 players in wind sector are state-owned or controlled, in line with the previous slides showing China's huge investment in wind. Some may be sub-companies of a large group, for example, as shown here, highlighted in green. For the remainder of my time today, I would like to give a very brief overview of the Chinese patent system. I won't bore you with all the technical details, but please feel free to drop me an email if you would like any further information in this respect. Chinese patent system was established in 1985, so it's relatively young, but it has been growing very rapidly over the last 3 or 4 decades. The patent law has seen 4 major revisions, with the most recent one in June this year. So CNIPA now sees an annual filing of approximately 5 million applications, and the Chinese applicants are the largest user group of the PCT system. The patent system in China is very much similar to that in other major jurisdictions. There are 3 different types of patent rights in China, covering slightly different but sometimes overlapping subject matter. The latest revision of the law has extended the protection for design patents from 10 years to 15 years. For those filed on or after 1st of June this year, 2021. Filing can be done through direct filing, claiming priority from an earlier foreign application, or via PCT. There are, of course, restrictions and requirements for each route. Invalidation is done through the re-examination committee at the CNIPA. Other forms of registered international intellectual property includes trademark, which is now also dealt with by the CNIPA, integrated circuit layout design, and copyright. Integrated circuit layout design is registered through CNIPA as well, and is only examined for formality. Copyright work, for example, computer programs and literature work, can be registered at the Chinese Copyright Protection Center. The law does offer copyright protection regardless of whether it has been registered. However, it's generally regarded as a good practice, and for many Chinese companies, a standard practice to register their copyright work for proof of ownership and date of creation. Enforcement in China is typically through civil litigation. In the recent 10 years or so, China has set up specialized IP courts in major cities. So far, there are 20 local IP courts, 3 IP courthouses in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou for local and regional cases. And on the 1st of January 2019, the IP court at the Supreme People's Court of China was set up in Beijing, mainly for appeal cases, but also for complicated and important cases. IP litigation or disputes in the green energy sector in China have also been very active over the years. There is also a very unique aspect of the enforcement route in China called administrative enforcement. Those of you who've been to exhibitions or large show events in China may have witnessed this when local enforcement officials come to the stand to seize samples, goods, or issues orders to remove infringing products. Administrative enforcement in China is in parallel with judicial protection and can be very useful as it's usually much cheaper and quicker. The state administration for market regulation have been responsible for the administrative enforcement since 2018. It has very broad power for trademarks and unfair competition enforcement. Although considerably less so for patents at the moment, it could also be very handy for small patent litigations or disputes, as it has the power to inspect the manufacturing site, thereby obtaining or securing direct evidence. Complaints about potential infringements on design and utility model patents can often be solved within a few months. Another useful tool for patent enforcement is custom control. Customs in China apply a two-way control system for IP rights registered with them. So the power extends to both imports and exports. Prosecution in China is usually very quick compared to typical processes in other IPOs. The latest statistic, the 2021 statistic, suggests that the average prosecution time for invention patents is about 18 months from filing to decision, about 13 months for high-value applications, and probably even less so if acceleration has been requested. Probably very few overseas applicants would want to further accelerate the prosecution. But there are ways to speed things up if it is in your commercial interest to do so. I wouldn't go into any details here, and you can read the text at your leisure after today's talk. But I would like to highlight the second option here, the prioritized examination, as it's subject matter related, and green energy and new energy is one of the technical areas that qualifies for the prioritized treatment. So I hope I've covered the green energy, the development, innovation, changes, trends in terms of technology, and the IP protection for green energy in China. If you have any further questions or would like to discuss with us about protecting either your invention or investigating your rights in China or in the UK or Europe, please feel free to contact us.